Yeah, put it
Let's
on.
do this. I'm going to rock and roll. This is started right now. And I'm going to see if I can get this rocking.
I have an interview right now with Dr. Ryan Doyle right there in Victoria. There we are. And we're talking about being trigger proof. What the hell does that mean? And it just seems to be the topic of conversation I love talking about because I teach what I most need to learn.
Boom.
Is it going to be a podcast?
Yeah, so basically, I'm going to just roll into mine right now. So for anybody that's listening on my end, this is good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. This is Dr. Ryan P. Doyle, and this is the Men of Iron podcast. And today's topic I'd like to suggest is triggering the trigger-proof Dr. Nima Rahmany. So listen, this is where I'd like to start the conversation, Doc, is that ultimately we just got on the air together, and the first thing we said was the thing that we're leading in our lives right now, the thing that we're really venturing into and we're leading others in is actually the thing that we at one point in time we needed the most of. I'm sitting leading other businessmen, other chiropractors, other docs through what I call the midlife triangle of chaos, which is marriage, business, kids, and we at some point in time, most of us get into this shit show that we're in, and we figure out all the little things that we didn't think that we thought we knew, we don't know.
We're unconscious. We're unconscious.
Totally.
Completely. Nobody sat us down and taught us, conscious approach to all of these things, and then until we have a crisis or a breakdown that forces us to wake up. And so that's the first thing that I ask is, what's your wake-up call? What's your wake-up call? A divorce. A wake-up call could be a health problem, financial crisis, or all three. Some people literally go through all three at once to kind of break them down to their...
all of them.
Yeah. They break them down to the deepest core. And what you realize is that you've been unconscious the entire time. One of my favorite authors, he's a Jungian psychologist named Hollis, says, the first half of life is a giant mistake.
Or it's where we're actually, it's a cauldron of failure.
Well, it can be. Yeah, it can be. But what happens is that it's usually approached unconsciously. Whether you lived your life in such a way where you were like, I want to be exactly like my mom and dad. I want to be just like mom. I want to be just like dad, or I want his approval. You have that one side. Or fuck them. I never want to have anything to do with them. They're assholes. They're monsters. They're A, B, C, D. And I'm going to do everything I can to end up exactly the opposite. Either way, if you're in the A camp or the B camp, you're not the one driving the bus of your life. It is driven by unconscious motives. And it's not until we land on a massive wake-up call, a landmine called divorce, landmine called infidelity, landmine called financial crisis, a business collapse, what was it?
In Men of Iron, we call it the pit. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a pit, and it's dark, and it's angry, and it's gross, and you just can't see any light. It's just this dark, lightless place that you can't see your way out of.
And it comes in many forms. It comes with health, comes with business, and it comes with relationships. So those are the three areas that it's wise for us, like people who are paying attention to this content, are definitely working towards expanding your consciousness in that field. And so I just became fascinated with studying that just for my own life. And I came to a point in my life where I have deep, intimate relationships with friends, family, and, I'm technically single right now, but not lonely, because I've created my life that way.
You've recreated your family, I think, have you not?
100% recreated my family. My family is a global family, and I've recreated my family in my personal family it's the best that it's ever been.
Awesome. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So you and I have both had triggers in our life. You and I have had deep, dark pits. I think you've had some relational ones. I've had some relational ones. And one of mine was actually, I just felt lost. I had no clear path to where I was going. I was literally starting to burn my life down. I was actually, what I was doing, and you'll say subconsciously, but what I was doing was I was burning my life down in my relationships, burning my life down in my business, burning my body down to the point where I would get so deep into the pit that I have to crawl out of it. And are we allowed to talk about your past mentors? Are we allowed to mention?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So what was interesting about one of the initial conversations that you and I had was that we talk about coincidence and the fact that there really is no such thing as coincidence. Both of us have gone through similar experiences, and there's been these paths and mentors that we've connected with. And one that fascinated me in one of our first conversations was we both connected with Dr. John DeMartini.
Yeah.
Could you just give me just the 2-second overview of what led you to there first, so that I could know where you went?
My first encounter with John was when I was 21 years old in my first year of chiropractic school, and he spoke to all of us and told us the story of Carlos, and fricking melted my face. I was like, whoa, who is this guy? Like many people have experienced, he's a mind-blowing human being. He's not, sometimes I wonder if he's actually human. And now over the years, I've now gotten to know him quite well. I became one of his, pupils, his star pupils that literally followed him around the world to the point where, taken all of his trainings and programs and taught his work. And then 5 years ago, I was in his program, the Prophecy to Experience, learning about the mind-body connection. And I looked at him and I said, I just want to let you know I'm going to share the stage with you one day. And he says, I'm absolutely certain that you will if you stay committed. And so just this past month, couple months ago in June, I had the opportunity to be on stage, not as one of his students, but as a co-presenter at a chiropractic convention in Paris, at the University of Paris.
Wow.
With my parents in the audience, and it blew my mind. I got paid to actually do it, and it was just me and him on the roster. And so had the opportunity to just hang out with him the whole time, and lunch and dinner, and it just felt like, wow,
And now, out of all of the shit, if we will, that we've manifested that you've manifested in your life, now that you're creating
the shit in the pit.
The shit in the pit. And now you're creating this. And so where has this led you now, and what are you doing with this, all the information, the journey and the path that you've gone from the shit pit? What are you doing with it now?
Well, the cool part about it now is that I'm now each and every day, based on John's work, is really about filling your day with high priority things. And as a chiropractor, I loved adjusting and healing, but then I wanted to expand my influence. So I started doing talks and workshops, and then I gave myself permission to do these, what I call the overview experience, my weekend training that's 2.5 days that takes you to complete regulation of your nervous system and clearing past traumatic events, getting you into your power. I do that in different parts around the world. I have one, I'm coming up in Vancouver in October. I'm in Sydney, Australia. November, I'm in Barcelona.
Wow.
December, I'm in Dubai. And I have I lead a global group of self-healers. Basically, essentially, I've taken John's work and everyone else's that I've integrated to create in my own life a life of freedom, of intimacy, connection, family, both energetically and personal family relationship dynamics, doing pretty damn amazing, and relationally to a state of intimacy with myself and others. And now I get to both work in a chiropractic setting part-time, and I travel the world and lead a global community of self-healers.
Unbelievable, like from where you were to where you are now.
Yeah, including chiropractors. It's interesting. Next week I'm going to be in Brazil, speaking at this very moment, at a chiropractic convention in Brazil.
In Brazil.
They reach out and they just want me to connect. My message usually isn't specifically for chiropractors, but because I love to put chiropractic philosophy into everything I teach.
Because it's the nervous system.
It's the nervous system. And so I seem to be asked to speak on chiropractic stages internationally.
So help me with this, because I'm not going to sit here and puff chests because I can't compare with you at the moment, other than I get to actually speak on a stage for the first time in about 10 years in Mexico, and I'm so excited. But I'm teaching my version of chiropractic. So my thing for you is for people that are new to you, and what was one of the funny things I just found out recently, Doc, is my wife has been listening to you for over a year, and she's like, who are you talking with today? She's so excited to participate in your stuff. But here's what some of my listeners want to know. My wife knows more about you than I do. So
I'm innocent. Hey, I'm innocent, Ryan. Hey, I didn't touch your wife. Are you confronting me right now?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I wasn't. Did I trigger you?
Yeah, totally. So here's my question for you: is when you say you go in and you're not speaking just to chiropractors, who are some of the people with all the skills and the tools that you've adapted and modified into your own pathway? Who do you help? What give us some of the examples of, because I've watched some of the amazing transformations that you had the gift of being able to participate with. But give some of my people or our people some of the ideas of who you work with. Like, what does that look like?
So it's weird. This has been the biggest challenge for me, because every time I do any type of marketing, they're like, all right, who do you help?
Who's your avatar?
Fuck, I can, like, anybody who has the intelligence to be able to look at themselves. But, you know, they all want an avatar, like moms age 35 to 40 who are so-and-so and whatever. But here's what I discovered that gets the most benefit out of kind of the work that we do is when you reach a point in your relationship where you're like, should I stay or should I go? You've had it up to here with relational anxiety and career anxiety. What am I doing this for? Why am I not connected to myself? And I'd rather be doing something heart-centered that comes from taking off the mask and just expressing who I really am. Creative people who want to use their creativity to serve other people. So those two types of groups, usually over the age of 30, close to, ironically, the midlife type of thing that you were talking about.
You and I are here for a reason, my friend.
I am my avatar. Yeah. It's everybody who's like me, who has a tough time in relationships because they're either, they are either too needy in relationships, or they attract needy people and they're the avoidant and they're like, get me away and let me find, like, I've been able to see myself in both those parties, so that both those situations. So I know how to heal those parts. Both of those parts require a healing and transcendence. So whether you're single, like over the age of 35, you're divorced or you're separated, you're wounded in battle, you're in this limbo, and your relationship's just not connecting. That's the first one. And you're not doing what it is that's fulfilling for you. You're not in a conversation that's uplifting, that challenges you, that forces you to wake up and just be a greater version of yourself. You're just maybe either just comfortable or comfortably miserable. Yeah.
Do you also find that people that you work with, or some of the people you work with, have obstacles that they are incapable of seeing, are actually having creating obstructions in the other areas of their life?
Yeah.
So their businesses are failing because they can't get through their relational issues that they're holding on to, the anchors that are pulling them back.
It's a ripple effect in everything. So that's why I just went upstream. As a chiropractor, they're coming in with stress-related disorders. When I just went upstream and I inquired, what are most of the stress-related disorders our patients are coming in with? Relationship issues, breakdowns, and career work stuff, which if you keep going upstream, it comes back down to a subluxated relationship with the self.
Yep.
I just made that word up. I love that. I'm going to write that down.
Uh,
a luxated relationship with the self. It's not connected.
Right. And so I call it thrival. Okay. So it's learning to thrive in the midst of chaos is the word that I use. It's a book I'm writing because we all just sort of tolerate, right? We tolerate certain conditions that actually hold us back from moving forwards. And like you're saying, it's
we tolerate. Do you want to know why we tolerate it? Fear. Because it's scary to confront it. Because who I will have to become in order to resolve that thing, I don't want to take on the work of becoming that. I'd rather blame the other person.
Absolutely. It's easier to blame the other person. And anything we want is on the other side of some level of discomfort. And the relationship that you and I are talking about right now, that I find when working with when I'm coaching men and women, the relationship that I find is the hardest for us is the relationship with
the self. Yeah.
Me. Yeah.
And it ripples into everything. It's like, and what does it look like? It looks like, well, my kids are failing. Well, that's because, I want to raise a community of self-healers that instead of going, my kids are failing, they're like, okay, they're failing and I want to take responsibility, not to blame myself and beat myself up over it, but to inspire myself as this is a trigger, a sign for me to step up and be a leader in my life. They don't, if the kids are falling apart, then take it on that they don't have a leader within you. Take it in instead of trying to pawn them off to doctors and all these other therapists. This is a sign for you. Clients call me all the time. They say, can you fix my teenage daughter? She's having problems with anxiety. Guess what? I don't want to help your daughter unless your daughter reaches out to me, watching my content and saying, I resonate with that asshole.
Exactly.
I want to talk to the mother. And so you're having problems in your marriage. Well, I'm married to a narcissist, or there's no passion. The last client I just said, there's no passion. There's no spontaneity. There's no adventure. Okay.
Who's not creating that?
Exactly. These things, romance and stuff, is an internal game that's created inside. But when you're unconscious, we expect everybody outside to give it to us. And then we get surprised that the relationship falls apart. My partner's in so-and-so, my husband was so-and-so. Well, look at you, at what kind of a partner you are. This is about taking that magnifying glass that we use in relationships that we love to do, which I love to do when I was married. I love to have that magnifying glass and just start nitpicking at the things. And then now it's like turning that magnifying glass into a mirror. Okay, let me look. Let me just look. Let me upgrade. So the path to victory is always to upgrade yourself.
Okay. And you have a process that you use, do you not, to take somebody that you lead them down?
Yeah. And I looked at many processes. I know that Garrett has the stack.
Yep. We use the stack in Men of Iron. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. You use the stack in Men of Iron, and I studied the stack. And I went to Byron Katie, who inspired the stack, and I did 9 days of the School of the Work with her. So I really have studied at length processes.
And
I did John
DeMartini process, the quantum collapse process, if that's what we call it.
Totally, the collapse process. I studied that and to its T, and it is the most complete thing that you can do on a cognitive basis.
Right. And then you said at dinner the other day, which was the thing that hit me, is that when I'm able to use my cognitive brain, that's wonderful. But what happens is that when we're in the shit, when we're in the pit, that prefrontal cortex, we can't access that cognition. We're totally in emotion. We don't even have the ability without spewing it out. And that's exactly where our conversation led into.
That's what I discovered over the last year, was that you can have the greatest, cognitive tools. And you and I have studied from the master of cognitive tools. John DeMartini is the master of cognitive tools, and his process is second to none about clearing, cognitive tools. The thing that's missing from that, what I discovered, is the embodiment work. Is how, when in a moment you've been triggered, okay, and you want to sit down and do a stack, or you want to sit down and do the DeMartini process, I came up with a tool that helps you
Put it together.
Put it all together, but by first resourcing and accessing your own self, the wounded parts of you, and self-soothing first, so that you can have access to all of those amazing cognitive tools to change the story.
Cool. And I'm resonating with this because I even just called you the other day and I said, listen, I can't.
Dude, I need some help.
I got something. I got a stack, and I can't access the damn thing. So I'm now completely on board with that. The fact is that I think that without the tools, we can't get the lesson or the gift.
Well, no. But without regulating the nervous system first, you have no access to the tools.
There.
I interrupted you.
No, that right there.
I had to jump right in. I said, tools are the tools. But what if the tools are locked away in the closet and you don't have access to that? And the key to unlocking those tools is to have specific triggered systems in place within your nervous system to get to a place where you can unlock those tools and then do the healing. And that's what I teach now. And it's important if you want to be a leader. It's important for those who want to lead families, who want to have their families, who want to have their staff and team and their children feel safe around them. And I'm not just talking about feeling safe like from abuse, because that will happen, of course.
Yeah.
That'll happen when you do this. You become an abusive fuck when you're triggered. That's what happened to me, right? Yeah. Not only are they safe from abuse, but they're also safe to tell the truth because they know that you'll be able to see, they will be able to be seen. Because when I'm triggered, I have lost the ability to see anything.
Right.
All I see is red. All I see is my own victimhood. All I see is me gone back to this regressed version of me.
Yeah. 6-year-old Nima.
Little child, and I just tantruming and saying, you know, I should be getting this, I should be getting that, and you should understand me. And then what you don't get in that moment is that person's out of resource, that person's triggered. They don't have in that moment an access to be able to see you because they can't even see themselves. So my work has now adapted to John's work and Byron Katie's work, all of that stuff, plus the bottom up, the bottom up approach to regulating and neutralizing that so that you can then cognitively go, oh, now I get it from their perspective.
Okay, so 2 questions I've got for you. For people that are listening or people that are interested in this, how do they get a hold of you? I want to watch you. I want to consume your information. Where do they find you?
Go on YouTube and watch my show, TRIGGERPROOF.
TRIGGERPROOF.
That's the best place to begin. Watch TRIGGERPROOF. One of the greatest, for men, one of the best episodes that I think that men should watch is the one where it's called Signs You Have an Intimacy Disorder.
Signs You Have an Intimacy Disorder.
Yes, it's on YouTube, TRIGGERPROOF. I believe it's episode 7. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Signs You Have an Intimacy Disorder. Because it was like when you have a compulsion for pornography, when you have a compulsion for sex, infidelity, all of this stuff, and or you have a problem committing, which is basically all of those things, you know, I've lived through myself. I realized I didn't have like a sex addiction problem. I actually just had an intimacy disorder. I had an inability to be with my emotions and to be with the emotions of other people. And so I was like, oh, why? Why can't you, Nima? Well, because when they react, you get triggered and you can't just hold still and be able to resource yourself. Oh, shit. Okay. So who's responsible for healing that? Oh, me. Okay. Then I realized that once I learned the tools of having intimacy with myself, all of a sudden my anxiety levels went down. My courage started to shine. I started to be able to see other people. Other people started to feel safe around me. Before in my chiropractic practice full time, they would not tell me certain things because they didn't want to rock the boat, because they didn't want to see me, you know, react. They're like, oh, it's going to upset him, so don't tell him.
I got to just throw this at you because I know you're seeing this, but I got to throw the medical world into this. How many people are you seeing that are coming to you that are like, I'm in the shit pit, but they're so medically sedated that they just don't even have access to what's going on. Are you seeing that now? Like
all the time.
They don't even have the ability to start to access their brain and even utilize the tools because they're just like
they're dissociated.
Drugs and alcohol.
Dissociated. Yeah, they're dissociated. It's drugs and alcohol. They're sedating, but also medications. And because they're so dissociated, the last two people that I spoke to in discovery calls, one was a 25-year-old woman with a child who is going through relationship limbo, just separated from her husband, has a business. But as I'm talking to her and I'm looking in her eyes, and I do all my discovery calls on Zoom so I can look at the person, I get an attunement to them because I'm so attuned to them. They're telling me about the pain that's happening in their lives, but they're just kind of like, yeah, it's terrible. And I'm like, so what if we don't solve this, then what's life going to be like for your daughter? Yeah, she's probably going to be the same as I had because it's the same as my mom. And just kind of like hollow. And I'm just like, wow.
Nobody home.
The person who's so disconnected from their feelings that they're not able to access them. Because as a child, the trauma that we're holding on to, and as a child, it wasn't safe to be in your body because of the pain that you're experiencing. So you dissociate from that. So when you get triggered, you either get highly reactive and lose it on people, which is the way that I did, or you're the type to just go into this freeze and just completely like dissociate. Usually one will marry another.
Interesting. So you get one that's really volatile and one that's completely like
frozen. They go dissociate.
Yeah, okay.
One of the people that I know, a really good friend of mine, when she's dissociated, she's just kind of like, she literally has this deer in head. And I'm not doing it to make fun of her. I'm looking at her and now I can have compassion. And the thing is that if you really get this education and you really understand the workings of the nervous system and how the polyvagal theory and how we can, through conscious awareness, help co-regulate one another. If you see your wife or husband checking out and they're just kind of like, huh? And you're all of a sudden, there's a little part of you that your mother checked out as a kid, and you get triggered because now they've left you or they've pulled away and you react to them in their abandonment. Your little boy is reacting to their little girl and you have a collision and you don't even realize you can actually co-regulate one another if you learn the art of expanding intimacy with yourself and others.
My wife says that when I go to that place, my lips go white. Like
totally.
The blood leaves my brain. The blood leaves my face.
That's your tell.
And that's it.
That's your tell.
Yeah.
So that's your tell. And it's important to create it in the process, which is I am now in the process of creating conscious relationships, which means that the second that I see that in a partner, imagine this. She sees that in you, the white lips,
yeah.
And all of a sudden is like, instead of running away, which her little girl might have seen white lips from her father and then, I don't know, gotten hit or something like that. You never know. This is what happened.
Not in her case, but yes.
Not in her case. This is totally random. I'm just saying these are the things that I hear. If she's sitting there with you, she says something and then turns around and sees white lips, all of a sudden she's going to go into her little girl.
Yeah.
And she's going to run or she's going to react. And then now you have two unconscious, wounded little children. That's what collides.
This is the conversation I'm going to have with you on a much bigger scale. It's the two unconscious people trying to have an intellectual conversation.
It's not going to work.
Like this right there, that one right there, I want to be a completely separate conversation because that one there is what I see everywhere.
Part two. Yeah, we'll do a part two podcast.
Part two. I got Absolutely. 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
That are really important for me. You said people can find you right now on YouTube. That's making one on TRIGGERPROOF.
Yeah.
The other way people can find you, because I know that you've got a course that's actually coming up soon. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Coming up when and where?
Yeah. Vancouver. I have a 3-day training on becoming trigger-proof, really. That's really what it's about. It's about becoming trigger-proof. Now, keep in mind, trigger-proof doesn't mean trigger-less. Oh, no. I get triggered like a mofo, just like anyone else. I've just learned how to surf with it.
Yeah. Okay.
You become trigger proof by, it's like becoming drowning proof by learning how to surf.
Yeah,
So
you don't love that you're swimming in the high seas, but you're swimming in it as
but I'm surfing it, and which is exactly what you said, is that how to create within chaos. What did you say? You said
thrival.
That's what you're doing
in the midst of chaos, my friend.
That's what this is. That's the same thing. That's a
Yeah.
it's a different language. We're teaching the same thing. How do I thrive in the midst of chaos, which was your biggest constraint? Mine is, how do I take these feelings that come up, because I'm a very sensitive individual, how do I take them and channel those, that great attunement properly? I realize I'm very empathetic. I'm an empath. So I realize as I'm an empath, before, if it's unregulated, I tune into people and then I get reactive to them. Now, I actually channel it into my sessions and I zone into people and give them a feeling of being seen that they've never felt seen before. And in my weekend workshop, Trigger Proof, I teach you how to do the same.
You said something to me at dinner the other day that boggled my mind, and it was just like, it was the thing that it's the most counterintuitive statement I've ever heard that anyone say. You said, the thing that I need to spend more time with are the things and the people and the experiences that trigger the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
So instead of running away from these things, you said, I'm actually going to go spend more time with my dad, because
my dad triggers the
fuck out of me.
My dad triggers the shit out of me, so I want to take him on like a guy's trip. That's how fucked up I am right now.
But that's the way that you're surfing at the moment.
That's how it works. And what I find is that if I don't do that, if we don't take it on like that, we then have disjointed families.
And it also, we carry whatever is happening there 100%. Into every other area of our life.
100%. You can't freaking avoid it. You carry it to every single situation.
Awesome.
Perfect. Exactly. 100% true. And the sad part is that that's how this intergenerational trauma continues. That's how you're passing it on to your kids. That's how they then don't feel safe, and then they respond the same way. It's kind of like we say, oh, it's a genetic problem. No, there's an emotional genetic. It's like emotional genetics. It's like you're passing it on, and you say, I'm never going to end up being like my father. And then lo and behold, you wake up one day, you're like, holy shit, I'm turning into him. And I'm now going to try to transcend it. And the way you transcend it, like in a weirdest way, is love, is through love. It sounds hokey and cheesy, but loving that person and loving self. And I just like, it's a mountain to climb. So I'm the Sherpa helping people climb that mountain.
It's love and light. And as much as we say love and light like a trivial thing, once you understand and dive into the quantum physics of it, everything is love and light. And that's the way
but most people talk about love and light as a bypass. Oh, love and light, even though I fucking hate you. Love and light. Love it. Namaste, motherfucker. That's like most people, there's a bypass. Oh, just love, send them love and light. Yeah, you can do that, but that resentment is still there. And the work is to get there. You can't fake it. You can't, like I tried to fake it for a while, and it's bullshit.
No, I mean, you can trial and tribulate, but you can't play with it. You got to actually do it. Here's one of my last questions that I want to make sure we get to. Other than yourself, what has been your favorite transformation that you've participated in? Whether you've led it, guided it, participated, seen it, what's been your favorite transformation?
I can sit here and talk for the next 20 minutes about my top 5 favorite. I'm actually creating a documentary right now to see which ones out of them I can only pick 5.
So take 5 to 10 minutes and just like, okay. I want to hear them. This is the juice for me.
Okay. So a patient of mine comes in 8 years ago. Her name's Kyla. She comes in to see me 8 years ago for neck and her upper back. And she's just an anxious mess, right? And I'm adjusting her. And then on her second appointment, I was like, Kyla, what's going on? Like, what's really happening in your life right now? And she was like, nothing, never mind. And then she comes in for her third appointment. I adjust her again, and I ask her again, I said, Kyla, what's going on? Like, I have a little workshop that I have in my office. I really recommend that you come to this so we can kind of, whatever's you're like this about, I can tell something's up. And so I never saw her again. So fast forward to January of this year, I'm doing a talk for a group of local entrepreneurs put on by this guy named Connor, and he invites his stepmother, Kyla, to this thing. Says, oh, I got this speaker guy. He's going to talk about stress. He's going to talk about past traumas and all that. You should see him. So she comes in, sees me, and she's like, I wonder, because this was 8 years ago. She goes, he looks really familiar. I think he's that same chiropractor that, that I saw only 3 times and I didn't really want to go back to. So she's like, and she tells her husband this, and her husband's like, should we get the fuck out of here? And he's like, and she's like, well, no, let's just hear what he has to say. So I basically go on and I'm telling all of what I'm sharing right now about taking ownership and responsibility, all of this stuff. And it hits her like a ton of bricks. And she comes up and talks to me and says, do you remember me? And I said, no. And she goes, I came to see you. You were my chiropractor 8 years ago, but I only came to see you 3 times. And I was like, in my mind, my mind's going, the fuck did I do? Like, did I hurt her? Did I give her headaches? I thought this was somebody telling me that, was going to, chew my face off or something. That was my own little kind of, it was happening.
That's
but I was
the
like,
story that you're telling because
that
of
was the
previous
story
experiences that you had. I did the same thing. I'm like, here's my pre-framed experience. I'm going to go into fight or flight, and I'm going to go, what the fuck? And I'm going to come out with, what do you want?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was making up in that moment. I was catching myself, and then that was what I was triggered. But then I kind of listened, and she goes, but I didn't, you want to know why I didn't come back to see you? I'm like, why? She goes, because you kept trying to get in my head. Because I just wanted you to fix my neck. And, I had anxiety, taking medication for like 20 years. And I have diverticulitis and all of these stuff. And I just wanted my neck fixed. And you wanted to talk about all of that stuff. And I felt like you were trying to get in my head. And I didn't really want to deal with you. And I was like, whoa, okay, I get it. All right. She goes, but something you said tonight really hit home. And I can't ignore it anymore. I'm ready. So she came to my weekend workshop and had a profound epiphany about her life, her mother, this resentment. We cleared the resentment towards her mother. She reached out and had a completely different conversation. And soon after that, after the weekend, she had because we dug up all these emotions, she had a real big bout of her diverticulitis, just went through the roof.
Of course she did.
And because we dug up all these emotions, she had one episode and she hadn't had one since then. And she jumped into my 90-day program, and we worked through all of her old triggers, all of her old, blame, shame, self-loathing, all of that shit from her past. And after 90 days, she's off 18 to 20 years of anxiety medication she no longer takes. No more digestive disturbances, diverticulitis, and her neck pain is 90% gone.
You talk about brain connection.
Exactly. No, we gave her tools to self-heal. Gave her tools to self-heal, gave her the inspiration and the tools, the support, and the guidance, strategy, guidance, tool, support, strategy, and guidance and accountability so that she can continue going back to the tools of taking full responsibility for everything in her life, including her reactivity.
Awesome.
Including all of that. And so that's probably one of my favorite because it just happened this year. But oh my gosh, I would love to tell all of them,
Well, you got 2 more minutes. Have you got one more?
Yeah, another guy.
Do one more because this is the juice for me.
His wife leaves him. This guy is named Joe. By the way, these are all guests on my Trigger Proof show. You can watch these episodes. She's on the intimacy disorder one. And the one on self-love, Joe was one of the guys. His wife basically says, I'm leaving you after 15-year marriage. And he was ready to work it and work on it. He was angry that she wouldn't work on it, but she was just like, they just don't have relationship, and they weren't even having a physical relationship. They hadn't, had any physicality, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying?
No, please do. Go and describe that for me.
They weren't fucking, okay? Brian, they weren't fucking, okay? So
just
for
wanted
years,
to make sure that everybody out there would just...
For years, I know, because I was very ambiguous. I wanted to get
Thank you
clear.
for the clarity. I appreciate
it. So, and he was trying to fix this, and I was just like, okay. He was like, can you help me fix my marriage? And I was like, dude, that's not my job. My job is not to fix the marriage.
That's a
not
symptom.
what we're here to do. Yeah.
These
what we're here to do is to get Joe okay with Joe, whether she's there or she's not, period. We are here to get Joe okay with Joe, whether he's here or not, period. And he's like, okay, I want that. So then fast forward 90 days later, he was this shy, quiet kid, completely disconnected with the little boy inside. We all have a little boy inside. Our reactivity is the little kid inside. And so without getting a body-based reconnection with that little kid, you will continuously self-sabotage and not have the ability to self-regulate.
Yeah.
So we basically gave him those tools. And before this work, he was like, ugh, I hate kids. But because we got him to realign with his inner child, him and his nephew's relationship went through the roof. His nephew loves the crap out of him, can't wait to be with him, loves playing with his nephew, took his little 4-year-old nephew to a baseball game, and his nephew's like crying when he leaves him because he loves his Uncle Joe. And he's like, this was not possible before, right? And so he, on live webcast, shared his story. And I asked him, if I told you not 3 months ago when you were at death's door and you were numbing yourself, scared, terrified of making a financial commitment to his greater version, if I told you that guy, if I told you him, that you would be on public kind of thing on my show, sharing a story with the world without any guilt, without any shame, without any resentment. He's like totally parting ways with her. And he's like, oh, am I ever glad that I wouldn't go back at this point. And we're like this.
Yep.
And I got her back. It's like without resentment either. I wouldn't have believed you, he said. So he's also one of the guests on the show as well. So I love that.
Mind-boggling the gifts that come out when we are able to access that inner son of a bitch.
Taking full ownership of reparenting. Reparenting is the process of giving your little one inside what they didn't get, instead of expecting your partner or your business or your work or your kids to give it to you.
That's it right there, Doc. And I'm going to leave it at this because I've already got 2 more episodes I want you on for.
That's good, man. Count me in.
Listen, I am so grateful to have you on. Thank you for sharing. And I hope that everybody gets an opportunity to watch you in your show Trigger Proof on YouTube. And again, if you need to get a hold of me, and I'll forward you on to Dr.
It's easy. It's easy to find me. You just go on any social media, Instagram, you can send me a message, and I'm happy to. At this point, I haven't outsourced that just yet, but it's getting to the point where the number of applicants and stuff are starting to rise. So I'm soon going to be outsourcing that, but I will happy to field any inquiries that are committed to transformation.
Any last thoughts or words for people trying to get a hold of you at this point?
Yeah. If you put in the work towards self-love, not just kind of like esoterically self-love, but actual ABC. And it's like, oh, Nima, you have to love yourself. Yeah, how the hell do you do that? If you invest in self-love, you have pretty much the keys to the kingdom.
Boom. Now, you got to take the first step. 1 step, 1 breath, move forwards. But when we don't move forwards, we don't change anything, do we? That's it. Okay, guys. I'm just hold on 2 seconds.